Today on Forbes, the curious rise of Silicon Valley's Trump whisperer, a former Biden donor pushing a free-for-all AI policy. The Hill Valley Forum was something of a victory lap for its organizer, Jacob Hellberg, the 34-year-old tech executive who rallied bipartisan support for the so-called TikTok bill that passed Congress in April. It was a crowning moment, heralded with accolades from former President Donald Trump. In front of a room of leaders from Silicon Valley and D.C., in a pre-recorded video at the conference in May, Trump said, quote, "Jacob, I want to thank you. Our meeting was very productive on AI and all of the ramifications, both good and bad." For a former Democrat who donated to Biden's last presidential campaign and gave $1.5 million to Democrats in the 2020 election, according to FEC records, Trump's endorsement capped an uncanny rise in Republican circles where Hellberg touts himself as Silicon Valley's China hawk. Now, he's among a coterie of wealthy tech elites lining up to shape tech policy by helping Trump retake the White House in the November presidential election. As an advisor to defense contractor Palantir and a friend to its co-founder Peter Thiel, who was an outspoken supporter of Trump in the 2016 election, Hellberg has a lot to say, particularly on AI. And Trump, it appears, is listening. Hellberg has donated more than $1 million to political groups supporting the former president, according to FEC filings and The Investor, and he has committed another $1 million. He told Forbes he talks to Trump's campaign, quote, every other day, but declined, with a smile, to say whether he's discussed a potential administration role. He said, quote, "I'm completely focused on what I'm doing right now." Hellberg's advocacy for a Trump plan to strip away a Biden executive order that would impose bias and national security guardrails around AI development has put him at odds with some prominent Silicon Valley leaders who previously supported his efforts on TikTok. Broadly, Hellberg believes that existing laws already govern AI appropriately, and that, quote, "a morass of red tape would harm U.S. competition with China." The reasons for Hellberg's meteoric rise in GOP circles are as fuzzy as his own credentials. Forbes has uncovered various inconsistencies and odd claims in Hellberg's story and background. And despite appearing at high-profile policy events and garnering praise from Trump himself, it's hard to tell what he actually does from day to day. He is vague when explaining his 9-to-5 role at Palantir, for instance, saying that he helps, quote, "think through the ways in which technology software and AI is going to be a platform in this new great power rivalry landscape." He describes his interactions with the Trump campaign as, quote, "an extracurricular." Unlike other Silicon Valley heavyweights who've parlayed their business careers into governmental influence, like former Google CEO Eric Schmidt, Hellberg has built his reputation in other ways. Key among them, using his hawkish anti-China treatise, The Wires of War, to help him leapfrog from a mid-level role on Google's news policy team into think tank jobs and a spot on the powerful U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission, which he used to rally support in Congress for the TikTok bill. His personal connections played no small role, too. He married tech investor and major Republican donor Keith Rabois in 2018 at a ceremony officiated by OpenAI CEO Sam Altman. They now share 2 children. In Hellberg's book, he wrote, quote, "Keith had his fingerprints on some of the most prominent companies in the Valley, and growing closer to him meant becoming more firmly embedded in that culture. I came to know some of tech's most original thinkers." Kevin Hartz, the founder of Eventbrite, who went to college with Rabois and attended Hellberg's wedding, said, quote, "A lot of people have taken notice of Hellberg over time. He's got great relationships with people around him that are backing him." Asked about Hellberg's political shift and rise in GOP circles, Rabois, who has donated around $3 million to Republicans this election cycle, according to FEC records, told Forbes in an email, quote, "I am always happy when people leave the Democratic Party." To some people close to Hellberg, his conversion to Trump Republican is little more than advantageous positioning. One Silicon Valley bigwig who travels in Hellberg's circles said that until recently, quote, he didn't have a view on AI or had ever expressed this super close relationship to Trump. Now's the time to get noticed by Trump because he's paying attention to anything that helps him get elected. For full coverage, check out David Jean's piece on Forbes.com. This is Kieran Meadows from Forbes. Thanks for tuning in.